The trial of the heretic. The room was cold and silent. Giant stone walls rose high above, carved with strange symbols from a time no one remembered. In the center stood a glass platform, glowing faintly blue. On it, a prisoner knelt, thin, shaking, eyes full of fear. His name was Kale, a scientist from the planet Zorith. Today, he was no longer called scientist. Today, he was called Heretic. Rows of alien leaders sat above him in a half-circle. Their robes were heavy. Their faces were hidden behind golden masks. This was the High Court of the Celestial Empire, and it never gave second chances. A deep voice echoed through the chamber. "Kale of Zorith," said the Grand Arbiter, voice cold and slow. "You are charged with crimes against the Empire. You questioned the laws. You challenged the old truths. You spread forbidden knowledge. How do you plead?" Kale raised his head. His voice was soft but steady. "I only asked why the stars were moving wrong, why Sector 9 has no night sky anymore, why the sun blinked out for exactly 47 seconds. The crowd gasped. "You asked why?" The Arbiter stood up. "You dared to question the sky." Kale nodded slowly. "Yes, because something is not right, and someone is hiding it." The chamber erupted in noise. Some shouted. Some whispered. Others looked away in fear. Only one person remained still. At the back of the hall, standing alone among silent guards, was a human, Commander Elias Drake. He wore no mask. His uniform was clean, simple, a black jacket with a silver star on the chest. He was a representative from Earth, sent to observe trials and maintain peace. Humans were still new to the Empire, only joining a few decades ago. Most of the old species saw them as loud, emotional, and reckless. But Elias watched everything, and he remembered every word Kale had just said. He looked up at the high judges. They had already made their decision. "Kale of Zorith," the Arbiter declared, "you are marked a heretic. Your sentence is death. It will be carried out in 2 sun cycles." Kale's head dropped. The crowd was silent again. But then, something strange happened. Elias took a step forward. The guards shifted uncomfortably, unsure what to do. The Arbiter looked down at him, irritated. "Earthman," he said sharply, "this is not your matter. Return to your seat." Elias didn't move. His voice was calm, but firm. "I only want to ask a question," he said. "You have no voice here." "Then maybe," Elias said, eyes locked on the judges. "Your court fears questions." Another wave of whispers rolled through the crowd. The judges froze. They weren't used to humans speaking like this, direct, unafraid. The Arbiter narrowed his eyes. "What do you mean?" Elias pointed at Kale. "He didn't destroy anything. He didn't attack anyone. All he did was ask questions." "Why is that a crime?" "Because questions lead to chaos," the Arbiter replied. "They break unity. They poison trust. Or maybe," Elias said, "they shine light on lies." Now, the room was fully quiet. Even the guards stood still. The Arbiter leaned forward. "You walk a dangerous path, human." Elias didn't blink. "Maybe that's the only path worth walking." Kale looked up at Elias, confused but grateful. It was the first time anyone had spoken for him. The judges whispered among themselves. Finally, the Arbiter raised his hand. "Your words are noted," he said coldly. "But the sentence remains. The heretic will die. And if you interfere again, you will join him." Elias gave a short nod, stepped back, and said nothing more. But inside his mind, something had already changed. The way the judges reacted, the fear in the room, the silence after simple questions, it all told him one thing. The Empire was hiding something, and Kale might know what it was. As the guards took Kale away, Elias watched closely. He didn't believe in fate, but sometimes the right words at the right time could change everything. In a galaxy ruled by silence, one man had spoken, And that voice might just start a fire. The human who asked why the silence in Elias Drake's quarters was louder than any battlefield. He sat alone, watching the stars drift by through the glass wall of his room aboard the Imperial Station Solara Prime. Outside, everything looked peaceful. But inside his mind, questions screamed. Why was Kale sentenced to death for asking simple things? Why did the Empire fear one curious voice? Elias had seen tyrants before. As a former Earth soldier turned diplomat, he had visited broken colonies and dead planets. But this was different. This empire didn't rule with war. It ruled with obedience. And silence. A small beep pulled him from his thoughts. His wristband glowed. A message. Unknown signal. Source. Restricted network. Elias frowned. This shouldn't be possible. He tapped the band. A voice came through, distorted and whispery. You are being watched. Ask no more questions. The message ended. Elias stood up slowly. Someone knew he was getting too close. Someone didn't want him looking deeper. But instead of fear, he felt something else. Anger. The next day, Elias requested access to the court archives, a standard diplomatic right. But when he arrived, 2 guards stood in front of the entrance. Forbidden, one said. By order of the High Court. I just want trial records. Elias replied, calm. Not your concern, human. He nodded slowly and walked away. But his mind was already working. If something is locked, there's a reason. And if there's a reason, it means there's something to hide. He needed another way in. Midnight. The station lights dimmed to simulate night. Most beings rested. Elias moved through quiet halls, his steps soft. He knew the station layout well. And he knew about one forgotten service tunnel, used long ago by maintenance drones, not listed on modern maps. He found the entrance behind a storage panel. Dusty. Untouched. Perfect. He crawled inside. The tunnel was tight and dark, but after 20 minutes of careful movement, he reached the back wall of the archive room. From a small tool pouch on his belt, he pulled out a signal disruptor and cut through the wall's lock panel. The metal clicked. The wall slid open. He was in. Rows of glowing data crystals filled the room. Alien tech. Beautiful, but ancient. Elias moved quickly, scanning labels. He found the trial record for Kale. He inserted it into a reader. A voice began to speak, the recorded words of Kale from weeks before the trial. I have seen things I cannot unsee. Stars flickering in patterns. Black zones where no ship returns. The Empire says it's natural. But I have data. The stars are being changed. Elias paused. Changed. He pulled another file. This one marked as sealed evidence. He loaded it. Images filled the screen. Maps of the galaxy. Highlighted areas. Warnings. Sectors marked unreachable. But one thing stood out. A phrase in Imperial code repeated again and again. Project Eclipse. Full control over cosmic truth. Elias stared in shock. This wasn't about one man asking questions. This was about the Empire controlling what every species saw in the sky. They weren't just punishing Kale. They were hiding something massive, altering star data, blocking transmissions, and even destroying ships that wandered too far. The Empire wasn't just hiding knowledge. They were rewriting reality. And Kale had found proof. Just then, the room lights turned red. Alarm. Motion detected. He had 10 seconds. Elias grabbed the 2 crystals, shut the reader, and slipped back into the tunnel just as the door burst open behind him. He held his breath as boots thudded nearby. Someone was here, said a voice. Find them. Now. Elias didn't move, didn't breathe. Not until he was 2 corridors away, safely back in his room. He sat down, heart pounding. His hands shook, not from fear, but from the weight of the truth. He looked at the crystals again. The Empire was hiding a lie so big, they were willing to kill over it. And now he had the key. The next morning, Elias visited the prison. Officially, he was there to check on detainee health, a right given to human ambassadors. But he had another goal. Cale was in a dim cell, tired, weak, but alive. The guard stepped back as Elias approached. "You again," Cale said quietly. "Why do you care?" Elias placed a small device on the wall, a sound scrambler. "Because you're right," he said. "And now I have proof." Cale blinked. Hope flickered in his tired eyes. "You've seen Project Eclipse." Elias nodded. "You were never on trial for lies. You were on trial because you saw the truth." Cale gripped the bars. "They think truth is a disease, but it's the cure." Elias leaned closer. "We're getting you out. Not today, not loud, but soon." "Why help me, human?" Cale asked. Elias paused, then said something simple, something honest. "Because I've seen what happens when good people stay silent." Later that day, as the Empire prepared for Cale's execution, Elias made a decision. He would not ask for permission. He would not wait for approval. He was going to defy the Empire, with the truth, with questions, and with whatever strength humanity had left. And that would only be the beginning. Forbidden knowledge. Darkness has weight, not just absence of light, but a presence that presses against the skin like a warning. Commander Elias Drake felt that weight now. He sat in a hidden chamber aboard Solara Prime, a disused observation deck once used by stargazers before the Empire sealed it off. No one came here anymore. Too many rumors, too many strange signals. He had locked the doors, jammed the sensors, shut off his wristband. Before him, on the old console, sat two glowing crystals, evidence he had stolen from the Imperial archives. The last time he inserted one, alarms went off. This time, he would be ready. He slid the crystal in. The room lit up. Maps appeared, massive galactic charts, but all marked differently from what Elias had ever seen. Whole star systems were missing. Black zones stretched across sectors. Empire-issued maps showed those areas as safe. But here, no entry, no return, no signal. One section blinked red. Sector 9. The same place Cale had asked about. Elias tapped the data again. Suddenly, an ancient voice spoke, recorded decades ago. "We have confirmed it. The stars are not dying. They are being shut off. Not by nature, not by time. By command." Elias froze. By command. He scrubbed through more files. Symbols, codes, old alien languages. Then, a name appeared repeatedly, always in encrypted tags. The archive beneath the dust moon. His hand stopped moving. He had heard of that place, a banned moon orbiting a dead planet. Off limits, not on any current map. Ships that went near it never returned. Imperial scouts called it haunted, cursed, eaten by the dark. But now he knew. It was real. And it held something the Empire was afraid of. Hours later, in a hidden hangar, Elias met a quiet ally, a pilot named Rhea, half cyborg, half mystery, who owed him a favor from a long-forgotten war. "You want to fly into a no-return zone?" she asked, checking her stolen stealth ship. "Not want to," Elias said. "Need to. You always were bad at staying safe. Safety's for people who trust the Empire." She nodded once. "Then let's fly into hell." The ship, a sleek black arrow named Ghost Runner, cut through space with silent engines. They passed border beacons, red warning lights flashing like dying stars. A robotic voice crackled through. "Warning, entering forbidden sector. Return immediately. This is your final notice." They didn't return. Soon, even stars disappeared. Just black. The kind of black that made you feel like something was watching. Rhea adjusted her scans. Navigation's glitching. "The stars are wrong." "No," Elias said softly. "They're missing." 3 hours later, they saw it. The dust moon. Massive, covered in thick fog and strange metallic dust, swirling endlessly around the surface, as if the planet breathed secrets. They landed. Nothing worked right. Gravity pulsed in waves. Time felt slow. Elias and Rhea stepped out, both wearing sealed suits. Their boots crunched into fine black dust. The sky above wasn't sky, just a void. "You sure about this?" Rhea asked, voice in his calm. "Not at all," he replied. They moved across the surface toward a structure, half-buried, ancient, pulsing faintly beneath the dust. Like a buried heart. They found a hatch. It opened with a hiss. Inside was a tunnel. Old alien design. Language carved into the walls. Not imperial. Older. Forbidden. They moved deeper. Suddenly, lights flared. A hologram appeared. A voice echoed. "If you have found this place, then you already know the truth is poison to tyrants. This archive is not a weapon. It is a mirror, and those who look into it must be ready to see their empire for what it is, a machine of control." Rhea looked at Elias. This was built as a warning. He stepped forward. The archive opened. Memories flooded the room, not his, but ancient recordings, projected like living dreams. He saw entire planets destroyed for asking questions. He saw alien scholars disappear. He saw how the Empire's first law was born. Truth shall be what we say it is. And he saw one more thing. Earth, recorded differently from every other species, not as weak or naive, but as dangerous. Dangerous. Because humans refused to forget. Because humans always questioned. Because humans, in every version of history, started rebellions. "That's why they let us join the Empire," Elias whispered. "What do you mean?" Rhea asked. "They didn't let us in out of trust. They let us in to watch us, to control us from the inside." He turned to Rhea, eyes blazing now. "They were afraid of humans the moment we reached the stars." Just then, the power died. Emergency lights flickered. Something heavy moved in the dark. Not machines. Something else. "We've been here too long," Rhea said, hand on her weapon. Elias grabbed a final data core from the archive. "We have what we need." They ran. Behind them, the structure groaned, like it was alive and angry. As they launched off the moon, the surface cracked. A giant pulse shot into the sky. A signal, a warning, or both. "They'll know we were here," Rhea said, eyes on sensors. "Let them," Elias replied. "Because now, the truth is coming home." Back on Solara Prime, the Empire's leaders stared at red alert screens. One whispered to the others, "The human has seen too much." Another nodded. Then the next phase begins. The Great Escape. The moment they returned from the dust moon, they knew the Empire was already watching. Elias Drake stood in his quarters, holding the final data core from the Forbidden Archive. Its surface pulsed like a heartbeat, as if it knew the knowledge it carried could start a war. Across the room, Rhea scanned the encrypted signal that followed them from the dust moon. "They saw the signal," she said. "It was a beacon, a silent scream. And now, the Empire knows we have it." Elias looked out the window. Outside, Imperial ships hovered like predators in the dark, quiet, but ready to strike. Within hours, a message arrived. Commander Elias Drake is no longer authorized to move freely on Solara Prime. For his safety, he must remain in quarters until further notice. But Elias knew what that really meant. He was being caged. And soon, they'd come to silence him, just like they tried to silence Kale. Inside the Empire's high chamber, cloaked figures sat around a glowing table. "He went to the dust moon," one said. "He survived," another added. "Then the old truth is in his hands now," said the Grand Arbiter. A moment of silence passed. Then the final voice spoke, deeper, older. "Kill him, and erase the heretic. The time for masks is over. Elias didn't wait. He moved fast. With Rhea's help, he hacked into the prison logs, checking Kale's location. The Empire had moved him, deeper underground, into a hidden facility below the core of Solara Prime. Maximum security. Zero sunlight. Designed for prisoners they wanted the galaxy to forget. They planned for hours. Rhea handled tech. Elias handled risk. "We have one chance," Rhea said. "After we get him out, the whole station will come down on us." Elias nodded. "Then we move like we're already ghosts." Midnight cycle. Lights dimmed. Distraction planted. A false energy leak near the outer hull. Engineers rushed to check it. Rhea dropped from a service shaft into the power grid. She inserted a pulse chip. For exactly 90 seconds, cameras would loop old footage. Alarms would go quiet. 90 seconds. No more. Elias moved like a shadow through the service corridors, a stolen guard uniform on his back and a plasma cutter hidden in his belt. At checkpoint 7, a guard asked, "What are you doing down here?" Elias answered without hesitation, "Code 5 maintenance, thermal reroute inspection." He passed. Barely. Deep in the prison, Kale sat in a dark room. He hadn't seen light in days. He didn't expect to see it again. But then, a soft click. His door opened. A figure stepped in, light behind him. "Ready for a second chance?" Elias asked. Kale blinked. "How are you alive?" "Turns out," Elias said, cutting his restraints, "humans don't follow rules very well." They ran. Alarms hadn't sounded yet, but that silence was thinner than paper. Rhea's voice came through the comm. "You've got 60 seconds. Then the loop ends." They moved through tunnels, hearts pounding. Cal's legs were weak, but he pushed forward. "You have the archive?" he asked. "Yes," Elias said, "and it's worse than we thought." They'd reached a side shaft. A ladder led upward. As they climbed, a soft voice came through the intercom. "Security breach in detention sector. All guards, converge." Too late. They'd been seen. Rhea was waiting in the stealth ship, Ghost Runner, engines already hot. "They're coming," she said. "You have 15 seconds to get in, or we're all dust." Blaster shots rang out behind them. Red beams cracked the walls. Kale ducked. Elias fired back, clean and precise. Guards closed in from both sides. But they jumped. Literally. From the ledge into the docking bay, a wild fall. The ship's hatch opened mid-drop. They slammed inside. Rhea hit launch. Ghost Runner burst into the void like a bullet. Behind them, Solara Prime roared with alarms. Ships launched. Hunters sent. A voice echoed across the fleet. "Human vessel has escaped with a level 0 Heretic. Engage. Capture or kill." They flew into a storm. Space around them cracked with interference. The same black zone energy from the dust moon. It scrambled signals, confused trackers. But it also made flying deadly. "Hold tight," Rhea yelled. "This ride's going to hurt." A blast struck the wing. Systems blinked. The ship rolled. Kale screamed. Elias held the data core tightly, like it was the only thing that mattered. "Get us out of this," he shouted. Rhea gritted her teeth, working on it. In the chase that followed, the Empire learned something they didn't expect. Humans don't run because they're afraid. They run to get ahead, and to strike back. Ghost Runner disappeared into the edge of known space, where no maps guided you, and where empires lost their grip. They escaped. Barely. But escape was just the beginning. Days later, in the shadows of an asteroid field, the three fugitives sat in silence. Kale, recovering. Rhea, watching the stars. And Elias, staring at the data core again. "What now?" Kale asked. Elias didn't answer at first. Then finally, he said, "Now we share this truth. We find allies. We let the galaxies see what's been hidden. They'll come after us harder. Let them, Elias said. They can't kill an idea. He stood up. They called you a heretic. He looked out at the stars. But you're not the heretic anymore, Kale. You're the first light. The stars remember. The stars had always been silent, distant, cold, watchers of endless war and peace. But now, for the first time in centuries, they were beginning to remember. 3 fugitives floated in the shadow of dead space, far beyond the reach of trade routes or patrols. Their ship, Ghost Runner, was hidden in a field of broken satellites and forgotten wreckage. Inside, silence was thick. Commander Elias Drake stood at the central console. In his hand, the data core from the dust moon. Inside it, the truth the Empire would kill to erase. Behind him, Kale sat with his eyes closed, whispering strange equations, things the stars had shown him, things the Empire called madness. Rhea leaned against the wall, sharpening a blade that wasn't for show. How many systems will even listen? She asked. Elias didn't look up. Maybe none. And you still want to send it? I have to, he said. We light the fire, even if no one comes to warm themselves at it. The plan was dangerous. The Empire controlled nearly all communication lines, but there were still black channels, unstable, unmonitored, forgotten tech used by smugglers, miners, and pirates. And one more group. Ghost networks, rebel scientists, thinkers, whisperers who never bent the knee. If Elias could tap into those networks, he could send the truth, not just the archive, but a message. One that spoke to the forgotten corners of the galaxy. He tapped into the comms. The screen blinked. Enter code. Black channel detected. He entered an old Earth phrase, one only a few would understand. Stars don't lie. Only empires do. Connection opened. Across the galaxy, in places the Empire thought were quiet, signals buzzed to life. On a frozen moon, a scavenger blinked as his radio flickered. In the undercity of a floating capital, a teenage tech hacker gasped as secret files downloaded to her broken tablet. On a rogue ship docked in a forgotten ring world, a hooded figure smiled. The message had arrived. The broadcast was simple. A video. Elias's face, half lit by the console. His voice, calm but sharp. My name is Commander Elias Drake. I served the Empire. I followed its laws. I believed its stories. But they lied. The Empire controls more than just people. It controls truth. It hides what it fears. It silences questions. It calls knowledge a weapon. I've seen what they buried. I've seen the stars they try to erase. And now so can you. I'm not asking you to fight. Not yet. I'm just asking you to look up and ask what they're so afraid of. The screen faded, and then the archive data uploaded. Forbidden maps, sealed trial records, footage of destroyed research labs, audio of Imperial leaders ordering the death of anyone who asked too much. And deep within the file, something else. An old signal, a transmission not from Kale or the Dust Moon or any known planet. A human voice, broken and glitched. We warned them. The stars are waking up. We tried to seal it, but the memory, lives, the file cut off. Rhea looked at Elias, confused. That voice sounded human. Elias didn't answer right away. His face was pale, because deep in his memory, he recognized that voice. His old mentor, Captain Jonas Sierra, missing in action 12 years ago in an exploration mission outside mapped space, declared dead, but clearly not. Meanwhile, in the Imperial core, chaos began to stir. The broadcast couldn't be stopped. It was already copied, spread, encrypted, whispered across 1,000 networks. Young scientists began questioning. A few guards deserted. One senator resigned, saying only, "I won't be part of this lie." Riots broke out in 2 fringe colonies. Statues of imperial judges were torn down. Someone spray-painted across a palace wall. The stars remember what you buried. But not everyone was ready to wake up. On a station orbiting the Empire's capital world, a new order was signed. The High Court declared Project Eclipse a necessary silence operation, and a new task force was formed. Their mission: track and destroy Elias Drake, erase Kale, shut down all networks tied to the Heretic signal. Leading them was someone unexpected. Commander Cassian Vale, once Elias's closest friend, now is Hunter. Back aboard Ghost Runner, the mood shifted. Kale was growing restless. He stared at the stars through the ship's window. "They're speaking," he whispered. "I can hear them again." Elias stepped beside him. "What are they saying?" "They remember the Empire. They remember what it tried to erase. And they're angry." Rhea raised an eyebrow. "Great. Now the stars have feelings." Kale turned to her, his eyes glowing faintly. "No, not feelings. Memory. There is something out there. Something older than the Empire. Older than us. And it remembers. Earth." Elias felt a chill in his spine. "Why Earth?" Kale answered with a voice not entirely his own. "Because Earth lit the fire first." As the ship drifted further into the unmarked zones, something strange began happening. Systems glitched. Stars blinked unnaturally. And in the darkness, a massive structure appeared, invisible to sensors, visible only to the eye. A construct made of light and memory, orbiting a dead star. They hadn't found it. It had found them. The ship's engines died. Rhea screamed, "I've got nothing. It's overriding every control." Kale stepped forward, smiling. "It remembers me." Elias pulled out his weapon, confused and afraid. "What is it?" Kale turned slowly. His voice changed, deeper, layered with something ancient. "Not what. Who. The first eye. The one we left behind. Born on Earth. Exiled by the Empire. It waited in silence. And now, it's awake." The ship powered back on, but only partially. The lights dimmed. A voice came through the speakers, ancient, layered, powerful. "I see you, child of stars, child of Earth. Your empire cannot silence memory. You are the signal now. Uprising of one." The galaxy didn't erupt into rebellion. Not yet. It trembled. Small tremors, whispers, sparks in dry fields. But a storm was building, and at its center stood one man, Commander Elias Drake, now branded an enemy of the Empire, a traitor, a heretic. But to those who watched in silence, to those who had doubted for years, he was becoming something else, a sign that the silence could be broken. Aboard Ghost Runner, the air was tense. Elias stared at the dark console, deep in thought. His eyes, once sharp with strategy, now burned with belief. Beside him, the ancient AI, awakened in the last chapter, pulsed quietly within the ship's systems, never fully speaking again after its first contact. Yet its presence was everywhere. Lights flickered when Elias walked by. Doors opened before he touched them. And Kale. Kale was changing too. He no longer mumbled equations. Now he spoke in full sentences, clear, sharp, like something inside him had connected, as if the AI had touched his mind and turned the key. "We can't hide anymore," Elias said finally. "We go back, not to the Empire's core, but to the edge, places that still remember who they were before they knelt." Rhea spun in her chair. "You mean the outer belts? They're fractured. Gangs, exiles, broken fleets." "Exactly," Elias said. "They hate the Empire, but they've never had a reason to stand together. And now they do. Now they have the truth." The plan was risky. Broadcast a live message. Not a secret signal this time, but a direct call to action. From Kaltris, an old mining colony turned slum world, once rich, now ignored. Elias knew it well. His father had died there in a rebellion that was never recorded. The Empire erased the memory. But Elias remembered. As they approached Caltris, Imperial signals grew stronger. Patrols scanned every ship entering atmosphere. Ghost Runner activated its stealth cloak, courtesy of the AI's upgraded systems, now far beyond any known tech. Rhea flew low, silent. "You really think this speech will change anything?" she asked. "Not the speech," Elias said. "The truth. We've already sent the truth. Not with our faces, not with our names." Rhea looked at him. "This is suicide." Elias smiled faintly. "Maybe, or maybe it's the first real move." They landed in the lower levels of Caltris, a city built downward into the stone, where the Empire's light barely reached. As they walked, the people stared. Some recognized Kale. Others whispered, "The heretic. The human rebel. The traitor." Some were afraid. But a few nodded. Those few gave Elias hope. They entered an old mining hall, now turned into a black market arena. Above the fighting ring, a broadcasting tower still half worked. That was the target. They'd send the message live across the black channels, using the eye's help to break the Empire's filters. Rhea set up the transmitter. Kale sat in silence, eyes glowing faintly, hands twitching as if processing something only he could feel. Elias stood before the camera. The red light blinked. "Live." His voice was calm, steady. "I was one of you. I believed what they told us, that the Empire kept us safe, that silence was strength, that truth was dangerous. But then I watched a man sentenced to die for asking why. I stole what they buried. I walked through their shadows, and I found the memory they tried to kill." He leaned forward. "You were never weak. They only told you that so you'd stop fighting. So fight again. Don't rise as armies. Rise as questions. Rise as doubt. Rise as truth. I'm not a leader. I'm just a man who finally looked up. And now I'm asking you to do the same." He stepped back. The message spread instantly, before the Empire could shut it down. In 1 hour, 5 minor uprisings began. In 2 hours, an Imperial convoy was hijacked by former soldiers flying black flags. In 4 hours, the Empire placed a death bounty on Elias Drake, highest in galactic history. They had expected retaliation. They didn't expect Cashinvel. The ambush hit just outside Caltris. Ghost Runner was pulling away from orbit when Rhea screamed, "Missile lock! Someone's on us!" No warning. The ship rocked. Hull breach warning. They spun into freefall, crash landing on a nearby moon. Systems died. Darkness. Then, the sound of boots. The hatch exploded open. Imperial elites stormed in, weapons raised. But they weren't ordinary. They wore no insignia, no colors, just black. And behind them, Cashin. His voice was cold. "Hello, Elias." Elias coughed, trying to rise. "You came yourself. You're not just a problem anymore. You're a symbol. And symbols are dangerous." Rhea lunged, shot in the leg, dropped. Kale stood frozen. Cashin pointed his weapon. "You could have lived quiet. You could have served. Instead, you chose madness." "No," Elias said. "I chose memory. Then you'll die with it." He fired, but the bullet froze mid-air. No, time froze. Cashin, soldiers, even light itself, paused. Kale stepped forward, eyes burning white. His voice layered, half his, half the eyes. "He is not yours to kill." He raised his hand. The bullet dropped. The soldiers flew backward as if hit by unseen force. The AI wasn't just speaking through Kale anymore. It was acting. Cashin vanished in the chaos, teleported, perhaps extracted. But Ghost Runner lifted off again, flying itself. No pilot. No controls. Inside the ship, Elias stared at Kale. "What's happening to you?" Kale looked at him, expression distant. I don't know where I end. And it begins. You mean the AI? No, something older, deeper, buried in the stars, and maybe in us. In humans. Kale nodded slowly. We were never just rebels. We were the memory carriers. They feared us not because of what we did, but because of what we might wake up. What are we waking? Kale looked out the window, into space. You'll see. The spark that burned the Empire. They called it the Eternal Empire. Unchallenged, unquestioned, unbreakable. For 1,000 years, it ruled with silence, not through fear, but through forgetting. It erased what could not be controlled. But now, memory had returned, and it wore a human face. The imperial capital burned slowly, not in flames, but in fear. Riots in 12 systems, desertion in elite fleets, scientists vanishing from research stations, joining the Ghost Network. The symbol of the Empire, once carved into stone and skin, now scratched out, blackened by those who once swore loyalty. Somewhere in the void, the ancient eye watched it all, not with joy, but with purpose. Aboard Ghost Runner, the fugitive ship turned legend, Elias Drake prepared for the final step. His eyes were calm now, not because he felt safe, but because he no longer feared death. He had sparked something that could not be stopped. Beside him stood Kale, no longer just a scientist or a heretic. He was something more now. He spoke rarely, but when he did, stars seemed to flicker. They're waiting, Kale said. Elias nodded. The rebels. Not them. The stars. You keep saying that. What does it mean? Kale looked up, as if hearing something Elias could not. You'll see. Their target. The heart of the Empire. Not a planet, but a construct. A city of crystal and light, floating in orbit around the Empire's oldest star, Veltra's Prime. It was called the Crown. From there, the Emperor controlled fleets, laws, and lies. No one had set foot there without invitation in over 2 centuries. But now, Ghost Runner was coming, and it wasn't asking permission. The plan was madness. Infiltrate the Crown using stolen clearance codes from defected officers. Broadcast a final message using the AI's amplification system, tied directly to the core of the Empire's comnet. Once the truth was heard from inside the throne, there'd be no stopping it, if they survived long enough to reach it. The Empire was ready. Its fleets stretched across the stars, blocking entry points. Its elite guards waited inside the Crown's shimmering towers, but they weren't expecting how Elias would come. 3 hours before arrival, the AI revealed something. An ancient backup protocol. A memory pod from Earth's lost rebellion. A recorded message from the last leader of free humanity, never seen before. The AI had hidden it for centuries. It now offered it to Elias. This was meant for a moment like this, the AI said. When the flame returned, Elias watched it. A woman's face, scarred, tired, but proud. Her name was Lara Orion, a general, a poet, a mother. If you're seeing this, then you've done what we couldn't, she said. You remembered, you questioned, you stood up. They can kill people. They can kill planets, but they can't kill the idea of freedom. Light doesn't win by being bigger, it wins by being braver. Go, let them hear what they tried to forget. The message ended. Elias wiped his eyes. Let's finish this. Ghost Runner dropped out of stealth just above the Crown. Immediately, alarms screamed across the Empire. Interceptors launched. Defense drones activated. 1,000 voices shouted, "They're here." But Ghost Runner didn't fire. It moved like a whisper, weaving through fire with impossible speed, guided not by pilots, but by memory. The AI had taken full control, and it remembered every weakness in the Empire's armor. Inside the Crown, the Emperor stood at the edge of his throne. He did not scream. He did not panic. He simply whispered. Finally, the guards looked at him. "Sir, Prepare the chamber. The last human has come home. Elias, Kale, and Rhea broke through the outer halls of the crown. A path cleared, strange, almost as if something wanted them to reach the throne. Doors opened. Traps disabled. Soldiers stood frozen, staring, some in fear, others in awe. As if some ancient prophecy was walking past them. The throne room was enormous. Glass walls, starfield ceiling, a single black throne, ancient and humming with dark energy. The emperor sat in silence. He was older than he looked, not just in years, in burden. "You came," he said. Elias stepped forward. "You knew I would. You were made to. All of you." Earth was never forgotten, only buried. Kale's voice echoed now, layered, no longer fully his. "We are the memory, and you are the silence." The emperor stood. "Do you think truth wins by being heard?" "No," Elias said. "It wins by being believed." The emperor raised his hand. Soldiers filled the room. "Then make them believe," he said, smiling coldly. The final battle didn't happen with swords or guns. It happened with broadcast. Rhea, from her console, connected the AI directly to the Empire's core channel. The ancient signal, memory itself, surged through every tower, every ship, every device. And then the final message played. The woman from Earth's last war. Lara Orion. "You who listen, you are not slaves. You were never meant to obey. You were meant to choose. They will say freedom is chaos. But look around. Is silence peace? Remember who you were. Remember what they took. And take it back." Across the Empire, screens turned to static. Then, to truth. The archives played. The Heretic trial. Project Eclipse. The erased planets. The forbidden stars. And Earth's final fire, reborn. In the throne room, the soldiers stopped. Some dropped weapons. Some fell to their knees. The emperor roared, reaching for a control switch, a full system shutdown. But it didn't respond. Kale stepped forward. His voice filled the room. "You built your empire on forgetting. But memory is a storm. And it's come for you." The AI's final act activated. Memory flare. A pulse of encoded truth, not just words, but feeling. The raw emotional history of every erased soul. Every scream silenced. Every dream destroyed. It flooded the minds of all who served the Empire. And for a moment, they remembered what it meant to be free. The Emperor fell to his knees, not from a bullet, but from truth. He looked at Elias. "You destroyed everything." "No," Elias whispered. "We restored it." Ghost Runner flew one last time, carrying the fugitives out of the burning crown as rebellion exploded across the galaxy. No longer sparks. Now, a wildfire. An uprising not just of ships or soldiers, but of memory, of questions, of hope. In the days that followed, the Empire fractured. In the weeks after, new coalitions formed. They didn't call it a government. They called it a conversation, a promise never to forget again. As for Elias, he disappeared. Some say he returned to Earth. Some say he walks the stars, helping those who still sleep. Kale became a teacher of memory, of the stars, of truth. And Rhea, she flew, always forward, because the journey never ends. Final line. In the end, the stars did not save us. They simply remembered who we were and reminded us to be it again.